of you who were with us from the beginning, the book I chose for us to use, in this spirituality class is um, it's a book by Brene Brown. It's a beautiful book, as you can see from there. All right, it's the gift of imperfection. So the gift of imperfection, she says, letting go of who you think you're supposed to be. We all have an image of what we think we should be. Maybe that's from what our parents wanted us to be, or us, growing up and imagining a figure that we would like to be like. And suddenly we're putting so much pressure on ourselves and no longer able to live with ourselves as we are because we have this image of us that we would like to be. That's how I want to be. Or that's how my parents would want me to be. Or that's how my kids would want me to be. Or that's how my squad leader would want me to be. Or that's how my first sergeant would want me to be. So suddenly you're putting so much pressure on yourself because you're forgetting that when God created you, He didn't tell your first sergeant what resources is given to you. He didn't tell anyone, your parents or anyone else, what resources is given to you. Only you know whether or not you can be and can do the things you bring pressure on yourself to do. And because all of us want to live a happy life, we all want to be happy, we all want to find joy, that is a desire of the heart. But too often that escapes us because all the while we are abandoning ourselves and trying to create this image that is non-existent, except it's a figment of our own imagination of how, if only I could be this person, then I'll be so happy with myself. And as long as I set myself up that way, I set myself up to be unhappy for the rest of my life. Why? Because most of those images we build for ourselves are unattainable. Not because they cannot be reached, but because we may not be able to reach them. God created every one of us differently. And every one of us has resources differently. In scripture, they tell us how God gave one person 5 talents, the other person 2, and the other person 1. That means we're all not given the same way. I may want to be like Abraham Lincoln, but that could never be him. Because maybe I just got 2 talents and he had got 5. So that means I will spend the rest of my life trying to be like him and never achieving that goal. Could I be the best of myself, the best version of myself? Absolutely. And will the best version of myself be good enough? Absolutely. But as long as I'm trying to be someone else, I may never get there. And that means I may never get full contentment. And if I cannot get full contentment, I may never get happiness and joy. And so, Brene Brown says there are some blocks or some stumbling blocks or some impediments that we need to take out of the way for us to truly experience happiness. And she has 10 guideposts. So if you see there, I mentioned the first 3 and the one we're doing today. So the first, she says, we have to cultivate authenticity. Meaning, I should be authentic. That means be okay with who I am instead of trying to paint a picture of what I am not. And that's what we do most of the times. Because we're trying to fit in. Whenever we find ourselves, we want to fit into what people expect me to be. And each time we're trying to fit in, we're being inauthentic. That means we're living false to who we truly are. So the first thing she says, stop putting pressure on yourself. Be who you are. Everywhere. Be who you are. Say what you feel. Don't say things you don't feel and you don't believe. Think about how many times we lie to ourselves. Think about how many times we lie to others. We never truly being ourselves. You're upset, but you can't even tell your friend how you feel because you want them to see you that you're strong. So each time we do that, we play with our own emotions. That's us being inauthentic. And she says the second thing is self-compassion. Now, there are too many of us who, I used to do that until I learned. We want to tell people how we are perfectionists. I like to be a perfectionist. I like to get my stuff done this way. I like to get it done that way. I like to get it done this way. There's nothing wrong with always aspiring for the best. But putting yourself on that pressure where you tell yourself, I'm perfect in this, I'm perfect in that. That means I cannot accept anything else until it's perfect. Now, that is unneeded pressure. You don't need it. The last time I checked scripture, God did not create anything perfect. God created us all good, not perfect. So we are putting pressure on ourselves to be perfect when God did not make us perfect. And there is no circumstance that is perfect. And there is no human being, I don't care who that person is, who is perfect. None. But God alone. God did not make you perfect. Don't put pressure on yourself to be. You want to be a perfect mom? You want to be a perfect teacher? You want to be a perfect soldier? You want to be a perfect person? That's a lie. You cannot be. Can you be a good person? Absolutely. Can you be a good mom? Absolutely. Can you be a good soldier? Absolutely. Can you be a good parent? Absolutely. But will you ever be a perfect person? No, you cannot. And so quit lying to yourself and telling yourself that, well, I'm a perfectionist. And sometimes we use those words, to make us, to pump ourselves up and make us feel like we're good. But we don't realize the underlying pressure. Why? Because once I tell someone I'm perfect in this, I spend the rest of my life trying to prove that to be true. And because I would never achieve it, then I'm setting myself up to never be content and never be happy. And so that's why Brene says, cultivate self-compassion. Self-compassion is be kind to yourself and stop putting yourself under needless pressure. Be nice to yourself. Be good to yourself. Others will put you under pressure, but you know how well to take care of yourself. So it says, cultivate self-compassion and let go of perfectionism. And the third says, cultivate a resilient spirit, letting go of numbing and powerlessness. Now, because the fourth one comes from the second. See, when I put myself up in a place where I want to show that I'm perfect, I realize that I'm going to suffer a lot of brokenness because I would never get there. And when I don't get there, I find myself inadequate. So inadequacy becomes how I see myself. That's when inadequacy is what makes us numb and powerless. Because suddenly I realize I don't have what it takes to really meet this goal. And when you come to that realization, all you've experienced is a certain sense of numbness and powerlessness to even do what you could do, only because you've set yourself up so much for failure. So, Brene says we should learn to cultivate a resilient spirit. That means a spirit that is consistent, but not one that's inflated. A spirit that is consistent, but not inflated. And so today we're talking about cultivating gratitude and joy and letting go of scarcity and fear. So I would like to begin with asking you guys a question. The question I wanted to ask was, it said, what is the difference between having an attitude of gratitude and living grateful or practicing gratitude? What's the difference between those two things? Having an attitude of gratitude. And then living
it is actually like, I think putting it into practice. I think more so like talking to God, just not just asking for anything, but like thanking Him for what He has done for you, and being appreciative of those little things, but not just up in your mind, but out loud, acknowledging that, So I think just putting it in practice.
Yeah.
Sometimes probably like I love to write. I like poetry and stuff like that. So you can write and say, God, I'm thankful for this, or I'm thankful for life as it is. So stuff like that. I think that's what it is.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
I think it's the difference between passive and active. Having an attitude of gratitude, I mean, that's a nice thing, but to me it feels like a very passive sort of platitude that you would put on a plaque and hang, as opposed to, writing a poem about how you're feeling grateful, or whatever that active thing is for you.
Okay. Wise. Good stuff. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So you've heard this whole thing about practicing what you preach, right? I'm sure if I told any one of you here that you are ungrateful, that would hurt. Right? If I told anyone here that you are ungrateful, that will hurt. Because that is not how I want to be perceived. That's not how I want to be seen. That's not even how I see myself. We all see ourselves as grateful people. We're grateful for everything that God has done. In fact, sometimes we tell people, You know what? When each day I get up, I'm really grateful for my children, I'm grateful for my husband, I'm grateful for my job, I'm grateful. Now, we say that, but we don't really live it. So saying it is one thing, living it is something different. And the reason why we cannot find joy in all that we have is because while we say that we're grateful, while we tell people the things that make us grateful and make us thankful for the life we have, we truly never live them out every day. And so each day you get up, instead of honestly living out and fully, practicing gratitude, you practice something else. You practice ingratitude, which makes us feel a certain lack of joy. So Brené Brown connects two things, gratitude and joy, and connects scarcity and fear. And that's something I want to talk about, how that plays out every day in our own lives. Now, when you are grateful, I'm sure you've heard that many times. When we are grateful, we find joy in everything that life is giving us.
Gratefulness is not because you have car, you have house. It's like you woke up in the morning and you're grateful you woke up.
And that is very powerful. But for some of us, when we wake up in the morning, that's not what we feel. Oh, I did not sleep. I didn't have enough sleep.
I woke up to the sound of construction at 6:30 this morning, and I was just like, "Who?" That's all I could think of when I got up.
Exactly.
Who
right?
is pounding at 6:30?
Good. So you realize how, just practicing to do that, it doesn't just happen. You won't just tell yourself, okay, now, beginning today, each day I wake up, I'm just going to feel good about myself. No, it's not going to happen until you learn to practice it. So the first one is you having an attitude of gratitude. The second is you living out every day. You wake up in the morning, I just want to thank God today that I'm up, that I'm still here for my children. I just want to thank God today that I can still go to work and still keep a job. I just want to thank God today that I still have my grandparents or my parents here with me. I just want to thank God today that I woke up and I'm still healthy and can still cook and can still do the things that I do. I woke up today and I can still pay all my bills. But that's not how we get up every morning. We get up and thinking about the things we have not done, the things we could not do, the things we could not be. I don't have enough time. Oh my God. I don't have enough of this. I don't have enough of that. That sets us up not to be grateful, but to complain, to be upset, to be disgruntled, and sometimes just to show bad attitude to people who don't deserve it. And so, if you want to truly practice gratitude, wake up every morning and give yourself 3 reasons why you're happy today, and state them. Today, I am so happy that I still have my job and can still pay my bills. You might even write it. For some people, they have developed what they call a gratitude bank, a small place where they put all their things they're grateful for every morning. So at the end of the month, they will go back and check their gratitude bank and realize how much they have deposited into that bank. And sometimes it just fills you with so much joy that so much has happened to you that you did not deserve. And so, that is how you can practice this and connect yourself to joy. Now, happiness is something that we all desire. I said that at the beginning. Happiness is something, or joy is something that we all desire. We all want it. But most of us seek it as if it was an object, something that if I did this and did that and did that and did that and did that, I will get to happiness. And so every day we get up. If only I could get a good job, I'll be so happy. If only I could get this, I'll be so happy. If only I could get that, I'll be so happy. If only I could do this, I'll be so happy. That's not how we get to happiness. Brené says we get to happiness by following this guidepost. It's by taking care of ourselves in all of these ways. Happiness will not come from something outside you. Happiness will come from something inside you. It is an inward an inward virtue, something that from in you build out. It doesn't come from out. People might make you excited. Things might make you excited. But happiness and joy must be something you develop from inside. That means your attitude to all that life is put before you. So Brene says, most of us don't even know how to accept compliments. Let us even begin with that. Jed, how do you deal with being complimented?
Sometimes it's hard to accept. I mean, it's on the sheet. Sometimes it's hard to accept the compliment. But it's like, I've grown to believe that it's like a meal. When someone offers you a meal, it's easy to say, well, I'm too wealthy to take the meal, or not wealthy enough, or whatever. It's easier just to receive so you can give. Same thing with the compliment. It's easier to receive a compliment so you can give one.
Yeah, but that's not something we do very easily.
No.
Sometimes when people praise you for what you have done, you feel uncomfortable. You're uneasy. And you would wish they didn't say it. Sometimes you even feel embarrassed that someone is giving compliments for what you have done right. And we think that is, sometimes we mistake that to be humility. That we are humble. No, that's a lie. What we have is this. We have consciousness of scarcity. We don't know how to deal with sufficiency and all that God has given to us and all that we are able to demonstrate, and people are recognizing it and telling us we're doing well. That's not humility. It's a consciousness of scarcity. I don't know how to accept the good. I don't know how to accept praises. I don't know how to accept gratitude. I don't know how to accept compliments from others. And when you grow into this place, then it becomes difficult for you to be grateful, because you have developed a scarcity consciousness. Consciousness of scarcity. So, welcome, buddy. Yeah. So I want to find out, who else? Tell me, why do you find it difficult to accept compliments?
The illusion of humbleness. Like joining the SRU, I've gotten many compliments about my progress, with my medical condition. My conversation with you say I'm a very intelligent person, and like I don't know how to deal with that, because it's the illusion of humbleness. Like I'm like, oh, I shouldn't accept his praise, but I mean, you say you have a master's in psychology, and if you say I'm an intelligent speaker, I should respect your words.
Now, so tell me, why does it make you feel uncomfortable?
Because of compliments.
Okay, good. I'll come to you. Now, because that is what we haven't taught.
Yeah.
See what the title of the book says? The gift of imperfection, letting go of who you think you're supposed to be. You think you're supposed to be humble. That's what they're thinking. Because somehow you see humility in almost every sense. Even though what you're doing is not humility, it's false humility.
Yeah.
It's not being humble. Because I'm sure if you did something very good and I gave the praise to Stewart, you'll be upset. Right? If you did something so good and I came in and I'm praising Stewart for everything that you did good, and that was all your hard work, you'll be so upset. You will leave there like, what did he do? I did all of that. And you'll be so mad at me. And maybe at him too. For stealing your thunder.
So Stuart knew.
Exactly. So that tells you, I really want that praise. But I don't feel okay to receive that praise. So I'm going to act as though I don't need that praise. And that's why we talked about being authentic. When Brene says, cultivate authenticity, that's what she's talking about. I should be honest with myself, really. I care about that praise. The reason why I do what I do is because I want people to recognize that I bring some value. And if they praise me for the value I bring, that's okay. Otherwise, this false humility would lead to scarcity, consciousness of scarcity. You develop a scarcity consciousness where you cannot deal with sufficiency, you cannot deal with blessings, you cannot deal with abundance. And because you cannot deal with it, you never see it. So even when God is blessing you with so much, you're still looking for all the things that He has not done for you. Even when people have done so much for you, all you focus on are the things that have never happened, they have not done. Because you have a scarcity consciousness. So you see how these things are connected. And when you develop this, you're setting yourself up never to be grateful. Why? Because no one is ever going to do enough to make you grateful. If your wife cooks a very good meal, you come in and look at it, you eat. Wow, why didn't you get some more spices for this food? Or why wasn't it more? This is so small. Or no, this is overdone. All right, you have to find there has to be something to make sure she doesn't get a jewel because it's all inside you. You cannot really give compliment because you are uncomfortable receiving it yourself, and because what you don't have, you cannot give. So that's why, Brene says we must learn to cultivate gratitude. That means practice it. Don't just say, well, I'm a grateful person. I'm really grateful. I'm thankful for all my parents have done. But I've really never told them that I'm grateful. That means you've not practiced it. Well, my wife knows I love her. I'm grateful for everything. She really never told her. Well, my soldiers know how much I feel about them and how much I care about them. But you've really never told them about it. Well, you know what? Everyone in my office knows how much they are first in my timetable. But you've never really told them about it. That's all in your head. Mm-hmm. And people want to hear that. People want to know that. And because you have all of these issues going on inside you, you just cannot be that person that you can be. It's impossible for you to be. So, Brene says, most of us don't even know how to accept compliments graciously. That's something I want you to think about the next time someone is giving you compliments. Mm-hmm. So tomorrow, if I give you a compliment, Suarez, what would you say? For instance, if I told you, man, listening to you, I think you're a very smart guy. Tell me, what will you say?
Thank you.
Is that all?
I don't really.
Yeah. So that's good, and I'm happy that you're being honest.
Yeah.
What I need you to do now is to go learn how to receive compliments. When you learn how to receive compliments, you will learn how to give compliments. Compliments that make sense. No, man, you're just so good. That is an empty compliment. When I tell you you are this, I tell you why I say you are that, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because I want you to recognize what I have seen and why I say what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, please.
You asked why, and I think there is this sort of societal false humility that we all have in our heads, but I also think self-esteem has a lot to do with it. If you have a negative self-image and someone compliments you, that's not how you see yourself. A lot of us don't see ourselves the way other people do. I think also that's why this step is under cultivating authenticity and cultivating self-compassion, because you do those things and your self-esteem is going to go up.
I agree with you completely. And that's why I said, if we don't do that, this is what we have. Consciousness of scarcity. So even in you don't see enough of worthiness. Like giving me something that I don't feel I deserve. Why? Because you don't even appreciate what you do. You do 10,000 things, and the only thing you focus on is the one you cannot do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if someone is praising you for everything else that you do, you focus because you're not seeing everything else that you can do. You focus on the only thing that you cannot do. This is why. A consciousness of scarcity. So you cannot see the good in you, just as you cannot see the good in everything else that's happening around you, to be grateful. So, you want to be happy, you want to be content, you want to feel good every day you wake up, you have to practice this. If you preach it, you have to learn these, how to be joyful. So, what is the opposite? I know we don't have much time, but so let me just try. What's the opposite of joy? What do you think is the opposite of joy?
Misery.
Fear.
Misery.
That's right.
Sorry?
Fear.
Fear. you might not even think about that, right? Because sometimes we think, joy. Yeah, if I'm not happy or joyful, therefore I'm happy, sad, or miserable. But Brene says the opposite of fear. Sorry, the opposite of joy is fear. Why is that? Why do you think that's the case? Why the opposite of joy would be fear? And fear of what? Fear of the dark. You have children? Amen.
Man.
You have children? You have kids?
No.
Okay. Who has kids here?
I have a lot of animals.
No, I'm talking about children. You don't have. Okay, now let me tell you. Have you ever sat down, for instance, watching your kids play or do stuff, and you have this sense of delight in watching them do, and suddenly, all right, you feel this sense of fear of what might happen to them if something happens to them? Have you ever felt that?
I felt that,
Yeah. So you realize, all right, from a sense of such excitement and delight at watching your kids do this, suddenly you are fearful. God forbid something happens to them. How does that happen? That from one moment when you're just feeling so hopeful, so excited, it's almost like a thief came in and stole that joy and brought you this fear of the fact that something might happen to them. Something might go wrong. And you don't control all of that. Was there something?
There was a fair, a county fair every year where I grew up, and you see this any place similar. There's a thing called a monkey bridge, and you climb a ladder and you go like along a rope and you hang on. And very, very small children absolutely love it. They just delight in it. And they reach a certain age, and that joy goes away, and it is because they are now scared of what could happen.
I agree with you. And too many times, Brene says we live in the fear of the dark, the unknown, the things we don't control. And so because we fear so much of this, we lose all of this. We can't spend time in this, even though what we have right now should give us joy. Our minds will just move from joy. All right, say for instance, I went to see my doctor today, and I was worried about, the test I had 2 days ago. And now I was going for my results. And I go there, and the result I get is good. That better than I ever expected. Now, what do you expect I should feel? Joy, right? Then I just got some good news. But very often, that doesn't last because I cannot spend time in that place. Immediately I feel that joy. Something just happens. Oh my God, but I still have some other thing now that I still have to face.
Or maybe the test was wrong,
Exactly. All right. I will begin to control all of these things in my mind just to bring me to a place where I am unhappy. I'm afraid of what could be, what might be, that may never happen.
Right.
And all of that has to do with the fact that I'm focused on, I have this, and I'm focused on everything that could not be, everything that can go wrong, instead of focusing on everything that is right now, everything that makes me feel. In fact, most of what I expected, I've had people get promotion. They worked so hard for promotion. They did everything for promotion. And the moment they heard they were promoted, they began to fear the next job that they're going to have. So they were working for that promotion the entire time. They fought for it, did everything for it. The moment they got promoted, they won't even stay a minute to enjoy the feeling that my hard work paid off. Immediately that happens, they move straight. Oh my God, I don't know what my next assignment is going to be. I hope I'm going to like it. I know that sometimes, look, I may have to leave this unit and go to some other place and just meet some, who knows, God knows what. Immediately, you didn't even spend minutes enjoying the blessing God has given to you, and be grateful. You just move straight to what is on the fear of the dark side. And so, if that's how we process life, and unfortunately, that is more natural to us. The other one has to be intentional. I have to choose what I focus on. Yes, I want to stay on this. I want to spend time and celebrate this. The fact that I worked so hard. I did everything right. And I'm thankful for the people that God placed in my life to mentor me and to bring me to this place. And this is one more step to where I hope to be. Why not spend time and just enjoy all of that? We just cannot. Because immediately, it's almost like a thief of joy comes in and takes and cancels the joy and brings you back here. You're living in fear. You're anxious. Sometimes even complaining.
Just like the children of Israel, as soon as they crossed the Red Sea.
Exactly. You know what? All they wanted was to get out of Egypt, to get out of this nonsense. And then God says, okay, you know what? I heard your prayer. Now I'm going to get you out of this nonsense. And the moment they got out, oh my God, now we don't have nothing. We used to, while we're in Egypt, we used to spend. So you realize how the mind works.
Yes.
All times we have to find ourselves, fearing. You get married, suddenly you begin to fear your husband, either cheating on you or your wife cheating on you. Or that your kids may not be as good as the kind of kids you want. You don't know that. You have no idea. So think about the things that we fear. That may never happen. Or you want to travel, for instance, you're so nervous about traveling because there may be an accident on the way. You don't know that. That may never happen.
Right.
But yet, that fear takes away all the excitement that you should have going to see family and be with people that you love. And so, Renee says, we must have to practice to spend time in this place. Spend time and enjoy the things that life has given to you. You wake up in the morning, life is just giving you a new day. Spend time and enjoy it before you begin to go, oh, I didn't have a good sleep. Oh, I'm not going to have enough time to do all the things I want to do today. Oh, God, just got an alert. Your bank account. My God, you just took how much for this bill? Suddenly you realize you're looking for everything else that is happening to make sure you're never happy. That joy is not part of your regimen for the day. So how can you live in such a way that you have enough to be grateful for, and that your gratitude brings you enough joy, and that you live instead of in the consciousness of scarcity, you live in the consciousness of sufficiency. Now think about how many people will tell you every day you walk around all the things that they don't have, or will complain. You know what? Yeah, I don't have, I'm not slim enough, for instance. I don't have enough money. I don't have a big house. I don't have a good car. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have. And I'm saying to myself, just take a moment and mention all the things you don't have. And be honest with yourself. Go on the other side. And mention all the things you have. You will realize all the things you don't have may go into one page. All the things you have may go into several pages. Every day. And yet, you spend so much time in this place. And not in things that will make you grateful.
Can I just say something?
Yes,
just
please.
to support what you're saying?
Yeah.
There was a time when, well, I'll just say my wife and I had some concerns, some challenges. And one thing that I started doing, for some reason, I started just writing down some of the positive qualities. And then I put them on my phone, so it's like it was just saved in my note. And then I just started adding to them every day. Well, not every day, but every so often I would add to them. And after a while, that list was way, way longer than the list of the things that I had issues with. And that's part of what you're talking about, the gratitude and joy.
And I agree with you. You see this clean?
Yes, sir.
See this clean thing? If I drew a line here, now you're not expected to write on it, right? If I drew a line here right now, once somebody comes, oh my God, what damage is? That's just one line. If you check the whole stuff,
Yes.
there's a lot of white on it.
Yeah.
But just a little black. I mean, I've soiled it, I've spoiled it. That's how our minds work.
Yes.
Our minds are made to look for what's not okay, what's not right, what shouldn't be. It's how we train. And because of that, and that's natural. Now, counterintuitively, we have to be intentional to see have the whole white. And there's still so much good in it. Instead of just looking at the little dot and say, what? Who did this? He saw the whole thing. Because that's how we react to everything.
Mm-hmm.
One thing suddenly takes over everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And what Renee is saying, you cannot, that's why she says, the one thing that stood out to her was practice.
Mm.
You don't just, this doesn't just happen.
Well,
You have to do it. So she says, everything in life, you have to practice all of this. And people do it differently. She gave how sometimes people would have this little place where they write things they're grateful for every day and put it there. Or they write poems, or they draw arts, or they do any kind of thing. Or you just, while you're driving, I'm so grateful for my wife today. The fact that, this something went well for her. And you're calling her, letting her know that you're grateful for her. Oh, I'm so grateful for my son. Wow, I am so thankful that he was able to land a job. And just calling him and letting him know how grateful you are for him. Think about how many things we have in our minds that we never say to people. Good things. Or think about how many things we even go through our own minds, good stuff that we never say. But we learn how to say the bad stuff every time.
Cool.
Tell people and complain. It's almost like we're looking to buy people's sympathy. And Renee says, that will not make us any better. It doesn't matter what life gives us. It will not make us any better. You pray to get a good job, you get a good job, and you're thinking, oh my God, now I have to move. Of course! You know you're not going to move. You get a good job. Right. So, but that's how life is. Learn to spend time in what God is given to you. Now, how many of you here know the man they call Otto Ashe? You do, right? Okay, let me share something with you about Otto Ashe. Otto Ashe, after he won the first US Open, he was a tennis player, good tennis player. He won the first US Open. He talked about the whole concept of why me? He said about several million people, 100 millions of people, all right, are born and live in the US. Of those several hundred million, maybe 200 million, about 500,000 will choose to do sports. Of those 100,000, maybe about 150 will choose to play tennis. Of the 150,000 that will choose to play tennis, about 50,000 might end up to play professional tennis. The 5,000 that play professional tennis, maybe about 5,000 may win several games. Of the 5,000 that may win several games, maybe about 500 might win the tournament. 500 that might win the tournament, maybe about 25 might win a major, the Grand Slam. 25 that win the Grand Slam. Him just won the US Open. Says, why didn't I ask God? Why me? Why wouldn't I ask God? Why me? But if one bad thing happens to me, I'm asking God, why me? Meanwhile, I'm just the one person in all. Where's the number?
Right.
What, it's not millions, oh, exactly. And I never ask why me. But the moment something bad happens, I'm asking, why me? And with that mindset of why me, when bad things happen, because you cannot see all the good things that have happened to you, you will never be a happy person, unfortunately. You will never be a happy person. Yeah.
It reminds me very much of something Magic Johnson once said that my mom loved to tell us growing up. Magic Johnson, obviously, he's successful, he's rich, he's famous, he's a great athlete. He's also HIV positive. And years ago, when he first discovered and it went public, he was in an interview, he was asked, do you ever ask why this happened to you? Now, this is a terrible thing, and especially when he was diagnosed, very scary.
Yeah, exactly.
And he said no. He said, because if I ask why this happened to me, I would have to ask why everything else happened to me.
Exactly. Yes. That's the truth.
That's deep.
And
Yeah.
once you're able to get to that place, all right, everything around you becomes something to be grateful for. Everything around you becomes something that will put a smile on your face. Everything around you will become something that will motivate you to do something, one more thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And so I end with these words. It says, joy is what happens to us when we allow ourselves to recognize how good things really are. That's what happens. Joy is what happens when we begin to recognize how good life truly is to us. But until we are able to do that, we're going to end up in a consciousness of scarcity, fear of the dark, and will not be content and never be happy. Or might live as though we didn't live. But I pray and hope that God, who has put us on this journey, will help us to focus on the things that truly matter, especially the many blessings life is given to us, most of which we have not earned and will never earn. So always I like to say, well, I like everything I do and everything I say by reminding you that you are the delight of God Almighty if you believe. God bless you. Any question before we?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you say a closing prayer, Chaplain?
I will.
Alright.
And we still have some food, all right? We still have some food. But before the closing prayer, I just want to appreciate all of you for taking the time to come. You know, sometimes the greatest gift you give to somebody is a gift of bringing them to a place where they find love. You know, I think I wrote something on one of my what do you call it? Word of the day. I talked about how sometimes the only thing you can do to somebody is not to give them an answer, but it's to bring them to a place where they can get the support and the answer they need, or at least the help that they need. So maybe that's what you can do. That means you can find someone that you know to bring to a place like this, to share. This is not about faith-based, this is spirituality. One of the greatest values in spirituality or spiritual development is gratitude. It's sure. So we can learn and support each other, like I said, build each other up and make the best of life. Because like ripples, you will have effect in other people's lives. If you're happy, you're going to make someone else happy. And somehow, you're passing all of that fire around. Shall we just pray? Most gracious God, we just want to thank you for bringing us here this afternoon to just hear of the blessings that life has in store for us. Too many times, our hearts and our eyes and our minds are closed because they have been trained to see deficiency, to see scarcity, to see all that didn't happen. And we forget to see all that happened. Beg, oh God, today for the Spirit to intentionally identify the blessings that life has given to us, savor the sweetness of those blessings, experience the intense joy flowing from those blessings, and just so we can transfer and transport all of that to people around us and build them up, even as we are built up. We ask all of this in your most powerful name. Amen. So, hopefully, now I know that I didn't. Do I have your email?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, yes, I could write the email.
Yes, you have my. I do have yours. Do I have your email? Not yet. Okay.